So when the Northeast Autism Society said they were doing a podcast around masking, we got some questions from parents of autistic children who wanted to know certain things about it. So if that's okay, I'll just put these questions to you. Um, the first question we had was from a parent who'd heard about burnout and wanted to know a little bit more about it and how it relates to masking. So, Kieran, if you could just explain what burnout is.
The way that you suppress yourself, the suppression of your identity, all of those things, it uses up a huge amount of energy on a day-to-day basis. And if you think about it in terms of a mobile phone battery, when you first get your mobile phone, the battery lasts for hours. You never have to recharge. You can go days without recharging it, and then over time, the more you use it, the more you recharge it. It holds less charge each time you charge it up. Eventually, you get to the point where you have to keep your phone plugged in all the time in order to keep it running because the battery's just completely burnt itself out. And that's what's happening with autistic people. So it isn't all directly related to masking. It's just existing in the world is hard. But there's this whole other extra layer of work that you are having to do as an autistic person and also as a disabled person because of the barriers that you hit because of being disabled and the specific barriers that you hit when you are autistic. All of that uses up all of your energy, and masking itself, compartmentalizing your brain like that and creating this other conscious version of yourself is huge, and it sucks up all your energy reserves. So if you think of it in terms of running a 100 meters race, everybody's starting from the start line, but you're starting 50 meters behind everybody else. And then the next day you're starting 75 meters behind everyone else, and then the next day you're starting 100 meters. So all that adds up over time. We see small examples of burnout and time, like the things that we've talked about, kids withdrawing, getting to the weekend and just burying yourself under a duvet and not having the energy to kind of do anything. And during the school holidays, if we're talking about children, and obviously this relates to adults as well. But then over time, because you never fully recharge, it ends up where you hit this period of what we term as extreme burnout, where you literally cannot live. It's defined. It's almost like regression. You lose skills. So the things that you could do yesterday, you can't do today. Your body is tired. You get autoimmune problems. You get problems with your gut. Your ability to communicate can't come out as well, or you have to communicate in different ways that are less energy usage. You cause yes energy usage. Your interpretation of your body's interpretation of sensory information becomes more exaggerated, so things become louder or they become quieter, or tastes become stronger, or smells become stronger, or you can't smell anything at all. And it's often mistaken for depression because the physical aspects of it and the kind of mental sludge that you feel is mistaken. It looks very much like depression, and at the moment that's the only professional narrative that there is, that you are depressed. So autistic people in burnout are often given, children as well are often given antidepressants and given CBT and talking therapy and things like that, when in actual fact what they need is to withdraw and recharge. And you can navigate that through understanding yourself and meeting your own needs. And but how many children understand themselves and are unable to meet their own needs, or how many parents are unable to meet their children's needs well enough? So that's what burnout is, and masking plays a direct part in that as well.
Thanks, Kieran. Is this something, Jodie, that comes up in your conversations much with parents, families?
Yeah, I mean, uh, uh, probably about 90% of the young people that I work with are in autistic burnout. Um, it's listening to Kieran talk about it is one thing. Seeing a child in it is quite it's distressing. It's distressing for everybody. It's distressing for parents, particularly when the support isn't out there or the understanding isn't out there. It's a really dire place for a young person to be, a child to be, and the recovery is long. Children. I work with children who have lost their childhoods to masking and autistic burnout. Um, and I think it's really important that we do discuss it here because, you know, people will be coming along and listening to this and hearing about masking, but their child will very much be in burnout because of the masking for long periods of time. It requires a really, really low arousal approach. I describe it as stop the world, I want to get off. Literally, that child needs to be left. And what quite often happens is that when a child presents to mental health services, or an adult presents to mental health services and they're in autistic burnout, like Kieran said, it's looked at as depression. So then medications are suggested, and CBT and talking therapy, and you need to get out a little bit more, you need to go for a walk every day. And actually all of that, I'm not saying none of that is ever helpful, but some of it can be really detrimental to a child that literally just needs to withdraw and recharge. Loads of different professionals become involved. And you suddenly have people coming to the house and wanting to ask you questions, and it can be so detrimental. And that actually, of supporting some young people, that recovery can't actually start until everybody's buggered off and left them alone. And again, that's really problematic, because if you are a parent saying, actually, I just want you to leave my child alone, you're then refusing services. You're then enabling them. So you end up in this really, really difficult position of, you know what's right for your child, but you're ticking boxes, because otherwise you're going to be blamed for neglect. It's a really, really important. I mean, we could sit here for the whole time again and talk about autistic burnout between the three of us. There's various different resources on my website and Kieran's website, and just googling autistic burnout and reading blogs from actually autistic people will give you a really, really good insight into where you or your child may be at, and what can support them.
Right. So if you've got a child who doesn't want to leave the house during the summer holidays, this might be the reason.
Yeah. If you've got a child that is refusing, I work with lots of young people who are unable to attend school. Often burnout is the point. It can come on really suddenly. I think we've all described it as like hitting a brick wall, where a child appears to be trundling along quite well, and then suddenly, bam, literally, it can be really, really sudden. And it's really frightening. As a parent, it's really frightening for a child who suddenly, hasn't got a clue what's going on. They don't know they're autistic. They don't know they're masking. They don't know what any of those things are. And suddenly they're completely unable to function